Kathia Woods Cup of Soul Show. Hi, Rebecca.
Kathia.
Sorry. First of all, I adore your film. And it's a conversation that we've been having in my family for quite some time. My mother is biracial, and my mother is a fair-skinned one, and her siblings are dark-skinned. And her mother was. So a lot of people used to not believe that my grandmother was her mother, or think that she was racially ambiguous, even though my mother has always lived her life openly and proudly as a Black woman. But it's always been like people saying, are you? She's like, no, you know. So talk a little bit about why is it that people don't accept the fact that we come in different shades, you know?
Well, exactly. I mean, this is sort of the, this is sort of the whole point of the whole story, isn't it? I mean, there is no monolithic idea of Blackness or whiteness or frankly femaleness or maleness or gayness or straightness, or, you know, there are all these categories that we love to stick people in are very limiting if you get too rigid about it, and also don't really describe a whole. And yeah, I mean, that's part of the reason why I chose to shoot it in black and white, honestly, is because, you know, we talk about black and white movies and it sounds like it's literal, but it's about the perception of that literalness, because black and white isn't black and white. It's 1,000 shades of gray, just like all of the things that you're talking about. And, you know, the movie, I think, tries to reiterate that idea again and again and destabilize all of these categories.
I also love how Tessa's character was like, you know, and I read the book and just like, you can't play Black now. Like, this isn't a costume. Like, we're people and we're living our lives, and you can't come down here and spy on the Negroes for fun. Talk about what that was like to, you know, and Claire is like clueless, you know what I mean? She's just like, oh, dude, I'm reunited with my friend, and Tessa's like, no, I have kids, you know?
Yeah.
There are consequences for this. Talk about what that was like when you were writing it, because it's really, it's an honest discussion, you know what I mean, that I don't think people, it clicks with them, that portion.
Yeah. Well, I think the levels of that interaction particularly are really complicated, because you have that level that you're talking about, absolutely, of Claire's longing to return and be with her community, and sort of a little bit kind of fully embodying it, but also slightly cosplaying the idea of coming back to Harlem and the whole thing, and Irene being critical of it. But then you also have Irene's, you know, there's some complications at the center of Irene, because here is also, we're looking at a woman who, you know, is so sort of obsessed with her rightness, you know, that she's being the right kind of woman, the right kind of wife, the right kind of member of the Black community. And there she is reading Crisis magazine and organizing the dance for the Welfare League, but she cannot talk to her husband or her children about race, about the realities of living in a racist society. And I think so the layers of who is struggling with their own truth at any given minute are constantly shifting between the two women.
Absolutely. Someone described passing as victimhood, and I want to get your thoughts on it. I don't think it's victimhood. I think it is a disease of racism.
Yes.
Because ultimately you're saying, in order for me to have a human life, to have choices, I can't be myself. I have to do that. So talk a little bit about that, because I don't think people quite understand why.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad you raised this point. It's a really great point. It's you know, there are some tropes around these narratives that Nella Larsen herself in 1929 was already undermining. And one of them is this idea of, you know, the tragic mulatto, and the person, and essentially these narratives are like, you know, the person who passes makes a terrible choice and they will be punished, and therefore they're a victim. But what Nella Larsen is doing is she's not critiquing the person who's passing, she's critiquing society for making it necessary. And she's critiquing all of the ways in which society can confine you and make you rigid, which actually transcends race and becomes this conversation of where's the tension between the person that we think we ought to be and the person that we want to be. And how much do we know? How much freedom do we even have around the person that we want to be when we're operating under all these various systems of oppression? And I think that is radical and completely against this tragic idea. And especially because Claire, for all that she is obviously the one hiding her racial identity and therefore performing something other than herself, she is ironically the most herself. I mean, yes, her truth is complicated and manipulative, and she will be anything she needs to be to get what she wants. But that is actually her truth. That is who she is. And she doesn't care. She's not in any way like, you know, reducing herself or shifting herself within that one larger lie, as it were. And that is really fascinating as well, because she has in many ways more freedom than Irene does, who's not hiding her racial identity, but is arguably hiding everything else about herself.
Absolutely. Brilliant film. Best of luck to you.
Thank you so much.